There's recently been controversy about Queen Cleopatra being played by a black actress. This has been derided as being historically inaccurate, and so much so, some Egyptian lawyers have filed a case against Netflix due to this issue. But Hollywood has a long history of casting actors who, let's just say, didn't naturally look the part. In fact, there are many old Hollywood casting choices that wouldn't be allowed today. Join Facts First to learn about these old casting choices that would not be allowed. Mickey Rourke as Mr. Yunioshi. If it wasn't for Audrey Hepburn's wonderful role of Holly Golightly, one wonders whether Breakfast at Tiffany's would still be a huge hit today. That's because one of the most controversial parts of the film that turns off viewers today is Mickey Rooney's role as the Japanese landlord, Mr. Yunioshi. This role is often criticized as it's seen by many as an insensitive and grossly offensive portrayal of an Asian character. Mickey Rooney played the role in what was called yellowface at the time. He is shown wearing rather ridiculous and demeaning prosthetics, and his accent, well, perhaps the less said the better. The mannerisms of the character are considered offensive and racist and was sadly rather common at the time. He wasn't the only actor to participate in this, it just so happens Mr. Yunioshi became one of the most famous, or perhaps infamous incidences of an Asian character being played by a non-Asian actor. In fact, even when Asian American actors, such as James Hong, were cast in roles during that era, they too were made to play farcical stereotypes. But in the years since the film, Mickey Rooney had expressed regrets for playing the role and apologized to Japanese Americans. It was also revealed that the producer wanted an actual Japanese actor, but director Blake Edwards had insisted on casting Mickey, but even he too later apologized. John Wayne as Genghis Khan. John Wayne, the Duke, was arguably one of the best cowboys we've seen on screen. But his role in the 1956 film The Conqueror is offensive to many, but also laughable, and one wonders what was going on in the producers' minds. Perhaps they got tired of hit after hit with John Wayne and wanted a flop? The film tells the story of Genghis Khan, the legendary conqueror of the Mongol Empire. Since Mongolia was communist and cut off from the world, they perhaps couldn't find a Mongolian actor to play the role, so somehow the next best option was John Wayne. But even the Duke couldn't save this film, which became a huge flop. The decision to cast Wayne was met with criticism even in the 50s. He was obviously not of Mongol descent and had to don the infamous yellow face to look like Genghis Khan, which itself was offensive. But it wasn't just John who met criticism. The film was criticized for cultural inaccuracy and showing offensive depictions of the Mongol people and their traditions and customs. Perhaps it was all well that the film flopped and wasn't taken very seriously. Nevertheless, John Wayne stood up for his role and stated he was just an actor doing what he did best, acting. He said it wasn't his responsibility to ensure that the film was accurate or even culturally sensitive. Charlton Heston as Ramon Miguel Vargas. Charlton Heston's role in the 1958 film A Touch of Evil is one that's often discussed and analyzed by critics and scholars. The entire cast and film is discussed, as it's one of the best crime films made in the country. If you haven't seen it, you're missing out on a classic, but you're also missing out on a guy named Charlton playing a guy named Miguel. Charlton Heston was of English and Scottish descent, so clearly not perfect for the role. This has been one of the tougher roles to criticize for film critics, historians, and audiences. On the one hand, it's a fine performance and a great film. On the other, there was much criticism over an Anglo-American playing a Mexican character. Hollywood was criticized for erasing an ethnic identity for Charlton Heston to play a Mexican character. His accent was also considered offensive. But the film remains a hit, and this has made some question whether it's justified at times to choose a great actor even if it's not an ethnic match. In more recent times, the British actor Christopher Lee played the Pakistani Prime Minister Muhammad Ali Jinnah, while the Egyptian Rami Malek played Freddie Mercury, who was of Indian Parsi heritage. Nevertheless, in the 50s, we saw more stories about Latino Americans, yet seldom were these characters played by Latino actors. Today, we see this changing, and perhaps characters like Miguel Vargas would be played by an actual Mexican or Mexican-American. Charlton Heston remains one of Hollywood's greats, and this role is considered one of his finest performances. You wonder if, with the passing of time, future generations will be able to enjoy the role as a character, or whether social mores will make them dismiss it and the film. Anita Ekberg as Wei Ling. The Swedish actress Anita Ekberg appeared in many great films in Europe and the US. Perhaps most of us know her for her role in Federico Fellini's film La Dolce Vita. But her role in a 1955 drama in America is one that hasn't stood the test of time. Anita's role in the 1955 film Blood Alley was different from her others. She played the character of Wei Ling, a Chinese woman who helps an American sailor, played by John Wayne, escape from communist China. Her performance in the film was praised by critics who always loved her acting. But her casting as a Chinese woman can't escape controversy. Even a Swede was made to partake in Yellowface. What's even crazier is that this role was one of her breakthrough roles that helped her find more work and become taken seriously as an actress. Just as Charlton Heston's role as Miguel Vargas can't be ignored, it seems Anita's role couldn't get ignored either. From today's lens, it may not receive praise or admiration, but this was the role that helped further her career. Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra. The new series about Cleopatra has come under fire due to a black actress playing the queen. It's been asserted that the queen was light-skinned, but there was already a film called Cleopatra that cast a light-skinned actress, and it still courted controversy. While in terms of skin shade, Elizabeth Taylor may have looked more like Cleopatra, she wasn't Egyptian. At the time, the film was banned in Egypt, and many Egyptians to this day are upset about Elizabeth Taylor's casting. It's also believed that by playing Cleopatra, Elizabeth was contributing to the exoticization of non-European women. Like John Wayne, Elizabeth defended her role and said she was just an actress doing her job. Critics argued the decision to cast Taylor perpetuated the stereotype of the exotic or other woman in Hollywood films. This stereotype reduced non-white women to objects of desire and exoticism, and it ignored the cultural and historical context of the characters they were portraying. It should also be noted that a few years before the 1963 film Cleopatra was made, Elizabeth had converted to Judaism. She was also an outspoken supporter of Israel, and this caused controversy in Egypt. To have a supporter of Israel play the Queen of Egypt was hurtful for many Egyptians, and the criticism continues. Nevertheless, the film became a huge hit and is still considered a Hollywood epic. For Elizabeth Taylor, this was considered one of her best roles. One wonders whether the new series will receive the same success. This is a great example of an old Hollywood casting choice that wouldn't be allowed today. But it seems even today the casting for Cleopatra and Egyptian characters remains contentious in Hollywood. Now it's time to hear from you. Are you a fan of any of these films? Do you think they should have been cast differently? Let us know in the comments section below.